Hi, how are you? How are we all? I hope we're good. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the best books of all time, in my opinion. These are the books that if Storygraph, if Goodreads went up to a 6-star rating, these books, in my eyes, would get 6 stars. No questions asked. I love them so much. And if you're new around here, hi, my name's Georgia. I talk about books on the internet, mostly gay books, sapphic books. But this video is probably going to be a really good insight for you into the kind of books that I really love. If you also love any of these books, then you should probably subscribe because our tastes are like that. We're great. My first ever video on this channel, three and a half years ago now, was me talking about my favourite books of all time. So this is kind of an updated version. I wouldn't say these are my favourite books of all time. They're just books I've really loved in the past few years. But yeah. Let's start. It's been a minute since I spoke about my loves, Onda and Santi, from Onda and Santi Were Here by Jonny, Garza. This is, without a doubt, one of the most beautiful books I've ever read in my entire life, and I do not see enough people talking about this book. Everyone needs to read this. Every single person in the whole world. I don't care what kind of books you're usually into. I don't know if you're usually a book talk book girly. I don't care if you're a fantasy girly. I don't care if you exclusively read straight romance. You still need to read this book. Everyone does. If you want an idea of the kind of vibe of this book, the blurb describes this as Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe, meets the sun is also a star. It's a YA contemporary love story, and it is one of the most beautiful love stories I've ever read. Onda is a non-binary Mexican-American teen who has lived in the same neighborhood in San Antonio, Texas for their entire life. Their family runs a taqueria where Onda obviously works, but that's not Onda's big dream in life. Onda wants to become an artist, a muralist to be exact, inspired by the taqueria and his family and their Mexican roots. And at the end of the summer, they're going to go to art school and really kick off their career. Only in that summer, Onda meets Santi when Santi starts working at the taqueria. And at first, Santi is very shy and there's this obvious chemistry between them, but Santi seems to not really want to commit. He always seems very flighty, like he's going to run away at any moment. Until eventually ICE agents come to the taqueria one day looking for Santi and everything clicks into place. Santi is an illegal immigrant. And the question is, what is Onda going to do to try and make this relationship work? This book will make you sob. I cried actual ugly tears. There are pages in this book, I have no doubt, that are stained with my tears. Not only is this an incredibly beautifully written love story, it's also horribly relevant to today's political climate, to today's society, to what's happening not only in America but in all different Western countries at the moment, and I cannot recommend this enough. It is really heartbreaking, it's heart-wrenching, it's beautiful. And it is also quite funny as well, which sounds very much at odds with everything I just described, but it is funny. I love these characters so much. Also, just look at that cover. That is the most beautiful book cover I've ever seen in my entire life. Speaking of beautiful book covers, I also love this one, Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. This is a book that I personally absolutely adored, but I understand why other people might not do. I think I liked it for very biased, very personal reasons. And I can't deny the fact that I would give this 6 stars if I could. I just absolutely adored this. Blue Sisters, as you might guess, is the story of sisterhood. In this, we're following the Blue family and their 4 daughters, 4 sisters. We have Avery, Bonnie, Nikki, and Lucky. And they had a very tumultuous childhood. Their dad was an alcoholic, and their mum just kind of enabled their dad's abusive behaviour. And so growing up, they're no longer close with their parents, and even the 4 sisters are kind of geographically far apart, but they're close in the way that sisters can be. In the sort of way that you don't always have to like your siblings, but you're always going to love them unconditionally, and that is the relationship that these 4 sisters have. But a year before we meet these characters, one of the sisters, Nikki, actually dies when she overdoses while she is self-medicating to treat her endometriosis, and it really sort of throws a spanner into the lives of each of the sisters, because Nikki, whether they knew it or not at the time, was the one who kind of held them all together. She was the voice of reason. She was the one who organised things and made sure they're all connecting and speaking. And without Nikki, they just don't really know how to connect with each other anymore. This book has alternating points of view, so you follow the stories of Avery, Bonnie and Lucky. They're all in different places geographically. Avery's in London, Bonnie's in LA, Lucky is in Paris, and then they all get the news that their parents are planning on selling the flat, the apartment, in New York City where they grew up. And so they decide to all go back to New York for various reasons to sort of say goodbye to the apartment and to their memories of Nikki and reconnect as sisters. This book is, again, heart-wrenching, heartbreaking. Apparently that's what I really love in a book. It's this beautiful exploration of sisterhood, but also of addiction issues and how that can run in families and how it can manifest in different ways, and grief. And I think when you read this book, everyone is going to relate to a different sister. Avery in this book is me. Whilst I was reading this, I was very affronted by a lot of the sort of mannerisms and things that Avery did, because I was like, oh, that is me as an older sister. Maybe I need to look at that in myself, because it's annoying. It is annoying. It made me think about myself and my relationship with my sisters a lot more, and yeah, I adore this book so much. Again, tear stained. Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. Is anyone shocked that this book is in here? Of course not. This is the psychological thriller to end all psychological thrillers. This is the only thriller that matters. The only one. Gillian Flynn came onto the writing scene. She wrote 3 incredible books and then just dipped. She was like, I've done all I can do. I've written 3 of the best thrillers that will ever exist in this world, and now I'm just going to take my paycheck and I'm going to disappear and I'm never going to write anything again. But you know what? She did it. She wrote the best. I'm very aware of the fact that a lot of you have probably already read this, or at least you've seen the movie, because I do believe that the movie of Gone Girl is one of the best book-to-movie adaptations I've ever seen. I thought the movie was so well done. As a die-hard fan of this book, I actually really like the movie, but I will say the book is always going to be better. In a movie, they're never going to be able to quite sort of capture that suspense, that moment of the twist, like they can do it in a book. I remember reading this book for the first time and audibly gasping, I had to put the book down and walk away from it when the twist happened. I'm not going to say what the twist is, of course, but I just thought this was truly incredible. And when I recommend psychological thrillers to people, this is always the first one on my list. Even if people are like, yeah, I've seen the movie, I know what happens. I don't care. Read the book. Our main characters in this one are Nick and Amy. They've been married for the last 5 years, and seemingly to everyone on the outside, they're in a very happy marriage, but things on the inside aren't as they seem. And then one day, Amy goes missing and Nick is the number 1 suspect. The police are led on this wild goose chase of clues and everything seems to be pointing towards Nick. But of course, things are never quite what they seem. This book will blow your mind. Am I about to give a non-fiction book the 6-star status? Yes, I absolutely am. This is Invisible Women by Criado-Perez. This book is something that I refer to every single day of my life. I don't think I could have got through the last 5 years without this book. This book made me insufferable in, I personally think, the best way possible. This gave me data. It gave me statistics to argue successfully with men about feminism. 6 stars all around. In this book, Caroline Criado-Perez exposes data bias in a world designed for men, by men. As women, we don't even realise just how much we are on the back foot until we do realise. And once you do realise, you are never ever going to unsee it. I'm just going to read out a part of this blurb for you and just let me know if any of this sounds familiar. Imagine a world where your phone is too big for your hand. Your doctor prescribes a drug that is wrong for your body. In a car accident, you are 47% more likely to be seriously injured. Yes, that is a true statistic. If any of these sound familiar, chances are that you're a woman. This book is essentially a collection of case studies about all the ways in which women are forgotten in data, and it goes down to every single little thing in life. Women are always the second thought. Did you know that when Viagra, as in the erectile dysfunction drug, was being formulated, they found that it was actually really successful at treating period pain in women? You probably didn't know that because they never marketed it for that. They didn't follow it down that road. Instead, they realised there's more money in treating men. So they did that instead. Have you ever spent half an hour queuing outside women's toilets whilst there is literally nobody going into the men? That's because women need longer in the toilet. They have more responsibilities. Women have periods to deal with. They have children to deal with. They have the elderly to deal with. And that means every time a woman goes into a bathroom, she is going to take longer in there. Whereas men, they can go into a bathroom, pull their zipper down, go to toilet at the urinal, and then just walk out. And therefore, if you think about it in that way, women's toilets should be double the size of men's. There should be more cubicles in a women's toilets than there are urinals in men's. But no, that's not what happens. Instead, they are created equally, but women are still put on the back foot. But do you think a male building planner is going to think of that when making their designs? No, of course not. I've had multiple arguments with men in the last couple of years where I have rendered them speechless. They haven't had an argument to come back to me with because I've used the data that I found out in this book. Honestly, read it. It will change your life. And then we have what I personally refer to as the holy trinity of sapphic fiction. These are the best sapphic books out there. Fight with me. I dare you to. You won't win. Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. I did not think I was going to like this book, and it swiftly became one of my favourite books of all time. I think about this every single day. In this, our main characters are Miri and Leah. They are a married lesbian couple, but the fact they are gay is not even really a plot point in this book. This book is just about them, and they happen to be gay. There are some wonderful, really beautifully written thoughts on love, on relationships in this book, but again, it's never really about the fact that they're gay. It's just about love. And listen, I love a book about being gay. Like, I love that. My entire life is about being gay. But this book, I think, was extra beautiful because it just wasn't a thing. It wasn't made into a problem. They just are a couple. They're a married couple. What the problem is that one day Leah goes down in a submarine. Oh, she is a biologist, like a marine biologist. Very important context. She goes down in a submarine for an expedition and she simply doesn't come back up. The months pass and Miri is left back on land trying to figure out what on earth happened to her wife. Like, where is her wife? She goes to Leah's company where she works to try and find out what's going on, and they just fob Miri off time and time again. She just can't get answers, and so eventually she has to sort of make peace with the fact that her wife is gone, and that's that. And then one day Leah just reappears. The submarine comes back up, Leah walks out, and Miri thinks everything's good again, except it's not, because Leah isn't the same person she used to be. She is clearly very haunted by something that happened whilst on the sea floor, and from there things get weird is all I'm going to say about that, because I don't want to give you any spoilers. But this is just a really beautiful love story. Like, at the core of it, it's a love story. It's about how far you will go to help somebody that you're in love with, even if they do one day go out on a submarine mission, disappear for a few months and come back as a different person. Classic. It happens to all of us. Who's bored of hearing me talk about this one yet? This is Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howarth, and this was my number one favourite read of 2024. I absolutely adored this book and everything about it. If I could read this again for the first time, like if I could reach into my brain, remove this book and reread it again, I would do that. This is set in the early 1990s. We're in a small rural Irish village called Crossmore, and our main character is Lucy, and she is just your regular teenage girl in this time, only she is harbouring this all-consuming crush for one of her best friends, Susanna. They spend this entire summer just together all the time. They sort of block out everyone else in their friendship group and they spend every single day together, and in that time Lucy really falls for her, and luckily for Lucy, Susanna falls for her back. But the way they deal with their feelings, obviously there is a lot of religious trauma there. They are in a small Irish village, of course they're Catholic. There's a lot of worrying about what other people will think, worrying about their families, and Lucy and Susanna have very different ways of dealing with their feelings. They have this really beautiful, really tender romantic relationship, and then school comes to an end and they've got to make a choice as to what they're going to do next. Like, are they going to fight for their relationship, for their love, or are they going to admit defeat and do what's expected of them? And that is all I'm going to say. This is absolutely devastating as a love story. This book is really hard to read. I think it is a very universal experience for every lesbian out there, at least every lesbian I've ever spoken to have that friend that you were absolutely in love with. Whether or not it ever became anything, we all had that best friend we were absolutely in love with. That girl who was clearly queer, but was never quite brave enough to come out and admit who she was. And I think that is why this one hit me so hard, right in the heart. Also, I think it's why it hits so many other people, because whether or not your story is exactly like Lucy and Susanna's, whether or not the feelings were reciprocated, we've all had that experience, somebody not quite being ready to come out of the closet and not quite being ready to be honest about who they are. And yeah, I could have written this. We all could have written this. Except we couldn't have done, because Chloe Michelle Howarth is a genius with words. Such beautiful writing. And finally, we have Rubyfruit Jungle by Rita Mae Brown. This is a lesbian classic. If you are a lesbian woman and you haven't read this, what are you doing? You need to read it. I think a lot of people are scared of reading classics. I know that I sometimes can be, but I really wouldn't be, especially for this book. It is set in the 1970s. It was written in the 1970s. But if you told me this was written in like 2022, I would probably believe you. Like, it's really not difficult to read, if that makes sense. Our main character is Molly Bolt. She is this really bold, bright, vivacious child. We follow her from when she is literally like 2-3 years old all the way through to adulthood. And from being a toddler, it is abundantly clear that Molly just isn't like anyone else. She has a really difficult relationship with her mother, who just seems to hate her for reasons that you do come to find out later in the book. But she just doesn't quite fit in. She never really does the right thing. She is so aware that she is different from everyone. And whereas a lot of other people would have tried to assimilate and tried to become like everyone else, Molly is kind of like, fuck that. I'm going to be who I want to be. And she lives her entire life so bravely. She never has a single fear, it feels like. She is like, this is who I am, and if you have any thoughts about that, then let me know. I don't really care. You follow her as she grows up, through her childhood, through her teenage years, as she discovers her sexuality. You follow her as she goes to university, as she gets kicked out of university. You follow her all the way to New York City. You follow her through all of her romantic relationships and all of the terrible choices that she makes. Like, this is a very inherently flawed character. I'm not saying by any means that Molly is like this beacon of perfection. She is incredibly deeply flawed, but she doesn't really care, and as the reader, neither do you. I adore this book. I love it so much. Molly is one of my favourite characters of all time. She just refuses to be put in a box, and as an author writing this, Rita Mae Brown, in the 1970s, this must have been so groundbreaking and so brave to put yourself out there like that. I can't even imagine. I adore this book. So there you go. They are my 6-star reads. I love all these books. I would die, ride or die for these books. Please put in the comments your 6-star books. I want to see them all. I want to see if we agree on any. I want to see if any of you absolutely love a book that I hate. I've got very strong opinions. I'm very intrigued. It's so interesting, isn't it, how some people can like hate a book and other people can love it. I read the worst book ever a couple of weeks ago. That'll be another video soon. And then I was shocked to go onto Goodreads and see so many 5-star reviews. I don't understand. But isn't it beautiful that we've all got different brains? Anyway, I'm rambling now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.